Good evening, Danvers. This is Mark Zuberek, joined with John Toomey and Matthew Duggan. But we also have very select guests. And what we want to do with this show is primarily geared towards understanding town meeting. If you noticed in the beginning, we had the town seal. And the town meeting has been in existence in this town since 1757. 1757 doesn't sound like that long ago, but we have changed over the years. Currently, we have a town meeting that has been active to some extent, but it also needs to understand their role and their function in our town government. So right now, what I'd like to do is I'd like to turn this over to Matthew Duggan, and what we're going to do is go around and see the introductions of our guests.
Good evening, Danvers. So tonight we have a number of fellow town meeting members to join us. Just go around the table real quick and let them introduce themselves. We'll start with Bill Bradstreet, who represents precinct number 1.
Bill Bradstreet, precinct number 1.
And Jim Morose, precinct number 3.
John Zavaglia, precinct 4.
Tony Bettencourt, precinct 5.
Dana Michael Hagen, precinct 5.
Deborah Nicolini, precinct 7.
Mark Zuberek, precinct 7, but you are
John Toomey.
John Toomey. He's been around forever, right?
Feels like it, yes.
That's right, but you've been involved in town meeting in the
Yeah.
past, yes.
So the reason that we've invited these guests is that there's been some discussion recently that town meeting has become kind of a weak organization, is not really doing its job, that it could be more engaged with the community. We see that just a small group of town meeting members are engaged in terms of going to meetings and understanding some of the issues that are in town. Many town meeting members don't really seem to understand the necessity to be engaged. They may attend the town meeting every May, but that sometimes can be the extent of their involvement. So the people that we've invited tonight are known for being participating throughout the year in terms of understanding the issues in town, and also offer their perspectives and suggestions on how we can make the town a better place to live and work. So what we want to do now is just kind of go around the table. Each person can have a minute or two just to explain what their thoughts are for this topic, and then we can kind of expand on that after we've gone around. So we'll start with Bill.
2 years. I'll have 25 years as a town meeting member. This is not like presidential or senators where there should be or are time limits for terms. The longer you serve, the more you learn about how the town operates, what we should be doing, what we shouldn't be doing, what we would like to do. So it makes a big step if you get involved, know what's going on, try to make the right decision, help yourself, and help the town.
Bill, one of the questions that has been raised in the past is, why did you run in the beginning?
Why did I run? I wanted to become involved. I worked for the town. I wanted to see if, by being a town meeting member, I could help the town and myself, because I work for the town. It's puts you at a disadvantage at some things, but not really, because working for the town, you have a better feel for what the town does or should be doing.
Good. Thank you.
Okay, yes, so I've been a town meeting member since, like, I don't know, the late 90s, and I had no intentions of ever running for office or anything like that. It's just that I got involved in some local issues with the neighborhoods, and they said, hey, you should run for town meeting member, some of the town meeting members that were up there. So I ran, and then I think in the early 2000s, I got thrown out on my ear because of the yes, no, maybe, I don't know, that inclusion, I got thrown out.
Well, that's part of the democratic process. But what I think what we need to realize is that our town meeting is made up of 144 elected members, 18 members from each precinct, elected on a 3-year terms, staggered. So 8 precincts we have. So we have 144 people that are elected to represent our neighborhoods, our neighbors, our friends, and we need to be responsive to their requests or their requirements. I don't know about anybody else, but I have been asked many times, what are we doing about the beavers? So it's one of the things that we do.
Well,
John?
let me throw
John
in.
knows
Okay.
about the beavers.
Am I up?
You're
No, not
talking
yet.
about your town meeting members representing the neighbors. Town meeting members also are the final yes or no on all the stuff, all the benefits and so forth that are going through town. You're voting yes or no how to spend the town money. And it's not a neighborhood, it's a town
Townwide,
situation.
yeah.
If I could add, Tony said that he was not reelected, ran again. The
That's
point,
Jim.
the point with what he said to me was, it means conversations take place.
Right.
Whether you agree or disagree, at least people are talking about what they should be talking about. They might not agree with what you have to say, but you have to get the idea out, whether it's good or bad, and listen and let someone else do the same thing, so we hear enough verbiage so that we can come to a good decision. Not my decision, but a good
We
one.
are the legislative body of this town, and this is where we come in. I hope that we don't sit there and rubber stamp every proposal that's made, and the thing is that we have to think about the whole town as well, but we're focused on the neighborhoods, on the precincts. John?
I've been I've been a member since 2007. Even from a young age, I've always been involved in different city. When I lived in Salem, I married into Danvers in 2004. But starting from the age of 21, I've been on different city committees. First one was taxation and services at 21. I've always been involved like that. And I'm not going to change. So my thing is, we haven't had a charter change in over 20 years. I've done a little research on other cities and towns, or other towns, and during this show I'm going to make a couple of suggestions, because you can bet right now the selectmen will deny they're watching us, but they're watching us. Because when I've asked them in the past, when I used to do the show with Mark, hey, did you see the show? Here's the answer I got. I wasn't home at the time. Okay. But they watch us. They pretend they don't, but they watch us. And they're watching us now because instead of seeing us as someone to help, that we're all in this together. But sometimes the selectmen look at us as, like, Mark will suggest something, and right away it's DOA, even though it may be a great suggestion. Bill Bradstreet makes the same suggestion. It's a great suggestion. I'm not lying here. I've seen it. I've seen it when Mark first brought up about, and Mark drives me crazy at times. Mark brought up about how our electric rates were really too high, and turned out they were putting $500,000 aside for the retirement fund.
5 million.
$5 million, excuse me. So, and all of a sudden, 2 years later, the FinCom starts saying the same thing Mark was saying. But people are trying to put Mark down, and at times, like I says, you drive me crazy, but sometimes you're ahead of the curve, but then again, the way you do things sometimes, have some disagreements.
Well, that's okay. I appreciate that.
Let me go to Mr. Bettencourt.
Mr. Bettencourt.
Yes, I've been a town meeting member for at least 15 years, if I'm not mistaken. Why I got involved was, believe it or not, I live up on Thorpe Circle, and the airplanes started changing their routine and driving me crazy. So I started calling around and talking to town meeting members and people in town. And the CR Lions called me up one day and told me, hey, there's Precinct 5, there's a seat open for Precinct 5. Why don't you go down and fill out some papers? So I did. And here I am. Now I'm here. I'm trying to do the best I can for the town. I try to pay attention. I watch the meetings. I like to go to the meetings, but I notice going to the meetings before, I've been watching town meetings since I've been in Danvers. I've been in Danvers almost 42 years. And when you watch the selectmen meetings before, there should be a lot of people in the audience. If you watch today, there's no one. The only ones there is Mr. Bradstreet and Matthew. That's basically it. I mean, it's funny. I mean, I don't know what happened, but it seems like, I don't know if they don't want anybody there, though. They chase people out, but it's not like it used to be. I mean, I've been watching it for so long. I mean, I remember when Mark was on the board. I remember Mr. Sears when he was on the board. I watched all those people. I mean, and that was the whole, thing of it. And it was like, it was interesting. I've been watching it for a long, long time, and I'm still watching it today and trying to do the best I can for the town.
Thank you. Michael? Dana Michael.
Dana Michael Hagen, Precinct 5.
There you go.
I was very fortunate at a young age to become a member of the Danvers Police Department in 1974. Policing has changed quite a bit since that time, but if you kept your mouth shut and your ears open, you learned a lot from those older than you. One of the big, when we talk about the town meeting and how people say that it is weak, I must say that when I, as it got to be in the early 80s, there was a buzz about, which keeps coming back to this town, about the town trying to eliminate civil service. That was probably when I first started and get involved, because it was very difficult to think that when you take a competitive exam, and that's one of the benefits of being an employee doing your job, and that was a very contentious meeting from the beginning. They made 3 or 4 attempts since then, and fortunately it's failed. But if it wasn't for the town meeting that stood up with all the dynamics, the arm bending, the whispering behind the doors to each other, hey, how you going to vote on this, how you going to vote on that? But they stood up and they said no. And that was very, very important. And that's what really got me involved to stay to the end, to make sure that issues like this, even though people complain, you're a town employee, you're a town meeting member, you're voting on your own raise and things like that, but that was just one issue, civil service, and that went 20, 30 years. And then there are other issues that go back. Ball fields, lighted ball field. That was almost a brawl over that. I if my memory serves me right, it was a real close vote.
Yes, it was.
And people wouldn't talk to each other. People get divorced over stuff like that. Not you, Tony. But what happened was these were meetings where the town meeting had a voice and spoke up.
But you see, that's when town meeting was active and involved in the day-to-day meetings that were happening. What I heard earlier is that currently now the town meeting has basically delegated their responsibilities to the finance committee, and the finance committee recommendation is the one that everybody goes with, because they feel like it's been laundered already and everybody knows what's going on. That's not totally true. So actually, when the town meeting itself, the whole body of 144 people, stand up and debate this thing, whatever issue it is, turns out to be what's good for the town. And that's what you've experienced.
And the debate is good until people start talking about how old they are, how old their houses are, and things like that. That's when it's time to move it on. But I just want to say one more thing, that gave me the start. And since that time, I've gone from Precinct 3 to Precinct 5. And then I've been a member of the retirement board. for 18, 19 years, and now library trustee, longtime serving trustee and chairman of the board of that. But this is what really gave me the start.
Great.
Thank you. And next we have Deborah.
Yes, I'm from Precinct 7 and semi-retired. I work for an engineering firm on a consulting basis right now. And what got me involved in being a town meeting member was fiscal responsibility with how the taxes are collected and how they're spent. I think there can be some tightening up of some of the budgets that are there. And I did try to get involved with joining the finance committee, but there weren't any spots. But it's one of my major goals is to try to get in there. My first election was a caucus in 2018, and I was elected in 2019 for a 3-year stint. I realize that town meeting members are volunteer positions, and I do believe that there's a lot of communication and information that can be shared between all the precincts, and I want to try to work with the group here and others that want to share that information in order for us to make a stronger inroad and for the town.
Thank you. I think you've hit a lot of the issues that have been brought up, and it's sort of, I hate to say this, but being an engineer and you with an engineering background, we're both conservative. And the problem is that the Finance Committee is not very conservative. They rely on what the selectmen propose to their budget. So what we need to do is we need to expand that.
Mark, is it possible for us to vote ourselves a pay raise?
Well, I was wondering because now the town selectmen, through the town manager, are giving the selectmen an increase in this coming budget to, I think it's $3,000 and $4,500. And they were not elected on that. I mean, you know, when you run for office, it's not a paid office.
That's not why you run.
That's right. That's not why you run. The payment is nowhere near to how much time you spend as a selectman. Selectman is a part-time job for 40 hours a week. So, let's go on.
I still think we ought to vote ourselves a pay raise.
Well, maybe we should get $100 a year. Well, do you think the town manager will let us?
Well, can we impeach someone?
Oh, boy.
Citizens petition, absolutely.
But here's the question I have. It's a good question you have there, right? But I'm wondering if really, maybe the selectmen should get paid more money. Maybe we can have a better candidates, more candidates. You know, maybe that's
The
a better idea.
selectman position is not about money.
No,
It's more about ego
power.
and power and their acceptance of being, you know, all encompassing. And they've been there too long, for one thing. And we as town meeting members really don't do anything about it, but we are also there for a long period of time. I would like to ask a question is, how do we encourage other people to run for these offices? I'll give mine up any day. But the thing is that we need residents involved. What did you
Be
say?
a short meeting.
Oh, we just very short meeting then.
Maybe the-
Yes, that's another question I had for Mr. Hagen. Mr. What did you used to call out all the time?
Move the question.
Move the question. That was it. And you've stopped doing that, so that's great.
Well, like I said, I mean, debate is important, and listening to each other, their views. But when it gets to be about my old and my house is old, and then only certain people are allowed to do that with each other, and then finally it's time to say, you know, we're far from what we were talking about, so let's move it because we have things to do.
Mark, really, more people might get interested if we did have a pay raise for our positions.
Oh, you are always interested in a pay raise.
Well, see, the thing is, the people have to be self-motivated
Yes.
to join. And so, you know, if there's an issue that people are interested in, that's what's going to get them. So if we see people, then we need to groom them and talk to them. And we have to mentor them and move them into our
Well,
spots.
this is one example of how do we communicate this kind of a dialogue with our residents? Because in a way, we are elected. And I know that last time I had 176 votes. Other people have much higher numbers. But these are people that have put their faith into our hands, and they rely on us.
Well, it's like the guy who stood up at the selectmen's meeting. I forget his name from, he was all about the traffic on,
Right.
okay, that guy. See, he's, he should be motivated to run for,
Well,
Town meeting.
maybe we should go and talk to him.
yeah, we should. And there's a
All
lot
right.
of people that do get up at these things, and we need to be there
What we need
help
to
them.
do is, Bill, you have a last comment?
Well, you ask questions, you pose problems, but you ask questions. I think that's a big reason why people will vote for you, or have.
Well, they have, and they know that I have a commitment and I don't give up. All right.
Sure. So I think the next phase of the discussion should kind of revolve around the transition from being a town to going to a city form of government. So we talk about paying selectmen salaries. That's not far removed from actually having councilmen and a mayor. And so I think you'll see people that have grown up in Danvers will say they'll never tolerate that type of transition, but it seems almost inevitable as the population continues to grow, the development becomes more city-like in our kind of, especially in the downtown area. Perhaps you can just offer a thought or two on what you think about the feasibility of moving to a city type or city form of government. There are different types, but the ones that we're familiar with are usually mayors and councilmen.
Whether it's right or wrong, my opinion is that city government is too political. If there's such a thing as being
Right.
too political, and in that case, whether it's the fake news I read or not, it's money driven, and that's not what I'd like to see the town move to. We do a good job. We certainly try to do a good job with enough of us helping one another and helping the town. If we had politicians, quote unquote, money driven, I don't think it would work for the town. I really don't.
But you see, you already have that. In the political terms, there are very few people that will stand up and challenge what's going on in town.
Then we need a charter commission. We haven't had one in 20 years, right? Hold on.
Absolutely.
We need a charter commission because, like, someone like Bedford, it's in their charter that they got to check it every 5 years.
Right.
Well, not check, but they have a charter
Review
commission
it.
every 5 years. They review it, and there's a bunch of changes that I would propose for a charter to change a few things. Some people may not like naturally, and some that make a lot of sense.
Thank you, John.
There's a big issue coming around now. All these towns that got the marijuana and everything in the cities, okay, so there's all sorts of graft going on. Now, if you think about representation, you're gonna have what, 6 councilors, 7 councilors, and 1 at large? But now you got 144. You've got 18 in your precinct that the citizens should be able to contact, and someone's gonna have to pay out a lot of money to pay off 144 people than 8. Okay?
Boy, that was succinct.
I was thinking about the fake news.
Hang on.
I'd
Tony?
like to bring up a point. The point I've known some people that have been town meeting members, okay, and they got out. And the reason why they got out was because they went, in the goodness of their heart, they want to do a good job and do things for the town. But when they went into the meetings and stuff, a lot of the stuff, you just can't do anything about it. It's like I don't even know how to explain it. It's just like it's
Cut and dried.
cut and dry. And if you have the right opinion, we know you can fight on opinions or whatever, but things don't make sense.
Well,
And that's
all the
why. So you
action-
get frustrated. Why bother?
Yeah, all the action happens at the FinCom meeting. When you get to town meeting, it's almost You know, like last town meeting, Jack Billings got up, and he wanted to just take a couple of money,
$100,000.
$100,000
Yeah.
bucks, and no one could. No, we can't. No, we got a script here. We can't go off that.
Well, go ahead, John.
Okay, two things. One is you're talking about the individual items that you're going to vote on. If more town meeting members presented themselves at the selectmen's meeting and the FinCom meeting and so forth, and discussed at those meetings the individual warrant articles, you would have more control over what's going on. And the other thing too is, at least from what I can see, there isn't that much debate at town meeting. The items come up, it's a yes or no, and boom, it's gone. To me, and I've had several citizens bring this up, you should be having either individual precincts meetings or an overall town meeting prior to the town meeting.
Yep.
So that you can discuss the overall, all of the warrant articles. And you can discuss that and get a better idea so that when you finally come to town meeting, if you're going to go into a just vote and no debate, at least a group of you has had a discussion and you have a much better idea of what's going on. That's it.
You're absolutely right, John. The problem is that people don't devote enough time into investigating what's really, the budget is no, there's no magic to it. The problem is that these increments of increases happen as a result of inflation. That's what they call it. However, have there been any efforts to reduce those budget line items through efficiencies, through reduction in staff, through reduction in contracts that they award? And the thing is, nobody asks those questions. And the town hall feels very comfortable just ignoring it because nobody is asking the questions. So
Well,
It's business
And
as usual.
one of the reasons for a town meeting, for the group of citizens, voters, who supposedly control the
purse.
government,
Yeah.
especially the amount of money spent by the town, is that the selectmen and the town manager put items in front of the town meeting, and town meeting makes the decisions. And the biggest problem to me is the average voter in town doesn't get involved. How many times do you get telephone calls, do you get people stopping you on the street and asking you questions or giving you their opinion? I'm willing to bet you don't get that very often. And it's one of the problems. You fortunately are sitting in a position where you can do something. You can have an effect, but you'll have a much better effect if you get together and do it as a group.
Combined forces.
Yes.
We need information all the time, different people's information, or so we can make a good choice. I'd rather have too much than too little information about a subject or what we're going to be voting on or spending money on. I grew up with my set of circumstances, so I feel one way about something. Each one of us has grown up with different circumstances so that it forms our opinions or theirs on what they think is right for the town. So more information rather than less. More opinions rather than fewer.
So maybe we can expand on that a little bit. So in a democracy, we kind of get the government we deserve. So if there's a lot of disengagement, we don't have the voters good turnout in May. we end up with kind of town meeting just serving as a part of the process. It's very streamlined that I've noticed. So we have the warrant articles are submitted by the selectmen. They go to finance committee. Everything is just kind of on a fast track. So when we have the town meeting, there's very little discussion or debate, and so we don't really get the good, a high quality product. Like when we don't really examine it closely, it's surprising to me how fast we can spend $120 million. It's just, it's just
10 minutes.
It's just and then the populace kind of starts pointing fingers in the wrong places because they don't really fully understand how things work. So,
But you see, even the most recent issue that came up with the tax rate setting, and the defense that the selectmen presented was that town meeting approved it. Town meeting is the legislative body, yes, but the budget and the amount of money that they spend is not dictated by town meeting. It's dictated by the budget preparer, who are the selectmen and the town manager. So I think we have to sort of reconcile of what are we doing there? What kind of action can we take? Mike, what kind of action do you think we can take?
When you talk about town meeting involvement or citizen involvement, every town resident can come to the town meeting and be heard after everybody else
After
is
the town
has
meeting
had their
members.
say.
absolutely.
So I mean, in my many years' experience working for the town and contracts and you hear a lot of complaints about employees and what they get paid and things like that. But the problem you have is that the average person, people complain about taxes are high. They did this, they did that. But I truly believe that the average person tonight at 11 o'clock at night, snuggled in their bed, don't really care, because
I know.
if the house catches fire, there's going to be 11 guys hopefully showing up. Somebody's breaking the house, the police are going to come. Snows, the streets are plowed, the electric is off, 13 hours or whatever. But I mean, the average person in this town, I don't think they just okay, well, taxes are high, but you get what you pay for. And unless we can talk all we want about what we should do, it sounds like a barnyard. We. But the citizens aren't storming the beach either at town meeting.
Can I agree with you 100%.
That's unusual.
Yes, the biggest problem, I think, is the average citizen doesn't have a problem. This is a well-run town. It's been well-run for many years. And the average citizen out there, as far as I can see, has no major problems. And we have good fire, good police, the electric, the water, the sewer, you name it. It's all there, and it's all run very well. So your problem is you have to look and see what the problems are that aren't apparent. You've got to look behind the wall and see what's going on. An example I have is the electrolyte department, and they make money by the rates they make you pay for using electricity. Do you know that they have multi-million dollars in the bank because they had more money than they needed by the rates? They make more money than they're using. It's all going in the bank, and it's being siphoned off to pay for other things. But that's the point, is things are good. We don't have any major problems. So you've got to look around to make sure things are going well.
and the town image itself, you go to other cities and towns, you see the town trucks, good shape, police cars, up to date, fire trucks, I mean, the schools, everything looks good. People want to come here. You go to other cities and towns, schools are falling down, they're driving 5, 6, 7-year-old cruisers, you know, I mean, so it just, it shows what we have, but they, like I say, they're not storming the beach. They're not, if they really had an issue, they should fill that auditorium, and they're not.
Well, it's all about quality of life, okay? Quality of life. And so everyone is what we call, like I was, fat, dumb, and happy. I could care less. I'm living my life. I ain't got time to get involved in this stuff until something happens. And, yeah, we have several problems in this town, but it's under the rug, like traffic. You know, the town spent a lot of money taking that survey, and you got people on Route 62 and 128, Route 35, 128 in downtown. You can't, it's gridlock all day long. You can't get anywhere.
Send me
And
back
it's
to
only
work.
going to get worse when now they're talking about quadrupling the density in all these overlay districts downtown, which they've already started, and they're going to do it again. So I was the only one who stood up at town meeting and highlighted that whole thing, and I felt like like all guns were pointed at me. But I said it, and it still everything just gets passed.
Traffic is a real issue, but
Yeah.
what do you do with it? People go through our town to go to work. If you decide that they can't come through your town, no business is gonna make any money. You know, they go through their town. I mean, we're a busy town, but
Well, yeah, but see that those traffic things, you know, there's nothing worse than sitting in traffic on 128 than going to meetings talking about traffic on 128. And we were there, and this is one size fits all. These intersections they put in were designed for like New Hampshire, when you got hundreds of yards between the lights. You can barely fit 5 or 3 cars. It's just you're just built-in gridlock.
But you see, the town meeting, as a member of town meeting, you have very little control of that. The only control that you have is the management of the town by looking at the selectmen and the town manager of how that is being effectively either implemented or changed or revised to compensate for the traffic that we have. But traffic is not the only thing. There's traffic, parking, there's
School test scores.
school test scores, the increases in the tax rates. But those are the things that we as town meeting members need to consider when we review these budget proposals.
Well, see, I disagree with you on a certain extent. A prime example of, as far as I'm concerned, town meeting missed the biggest question that they had with the rezoning. When the overlay district went in, there should have been more questions, more discussion about parking and traffic. And there was very little discussion on that.
Traffic has been mentioned as a problem now. Wait till they start the project on 128 at Endicott Street. All that traffic is going to have to find another way to get through town, around town, or whatever. If you think things are bad now, wait. And from my understanding is, when the town has tried to talk to the state about it, the state's too busy to get back to us.
The trouble with that is, I used to work in Boston in the 80s and 90s. And when you went from Boylston Street up to Berkeley to Storrow Drive, all the traffic lights were in sync all the way up, both ways. And you don't have that. I'm on 62 all the time, trying to get on 128 to go to Endicott. And the traffic lights, for the most part, are not in sync. And they run the most effective when the traffic lights are in sync. But you don't see that. You don't see that like you should, like they do in Boston on Berkeley Street. All the way up, it's in sync. And I think that's another way to help this, because they're right. The running room is not there. I get it. But at least have the traffic lights in sync, which they don't for the most part.
Can I say something?
Go ahead.
I truly believe that the town the Board of Selectmen and the moderators when you're at the meeting, they're not going to listen to a few of us. I do agree with John relative to there has to be in numbers, and in order for us to be talking in numbers, we all have to be educated and not necessarily all agree on the topics, but be educated with facts so that we all can come together and make a good case. And I think it's going to take some time to do that. But unless all the town meeting members get up and start getting involved, you're just going to go to meetings and just hear 3 or 4 no's and all yeas. And it's not a revolt. It's just that you need to educate people and see everybody in the town that's not a meeting member should understand how the town spends their money. Regardless if they have a problem with it or they don't have a problem with it. They need to understand how their money's being spent.
Ask questions.
All right, what you're saying is kind of true, but I don't see it that way. The reason why I don't, okay? When I had my problem, okay? First time I got was over 200 signatures, okay? Did nothing. Then I got another 300 signatures. They were going to take an advisement. Then finally, I went and I got, back then there was only 15 town meeting members, okay? Out of the 15, I got 13 to sign a piece of paper for me to get something done, okay? I didn't call the 2 that I knew because I knew they weren't going to go where I wanted to go. Come to find out, they got to get back to you. Well, it's been 15 years. They haven't got back to me yet.
And this is where perseverance is an issue. We as town meeting members have the responsibility to pursue and persevere through by asking over and over again. You know my position. I've been asking for a lot of things and I get beat up, but that's okay. That's what it's about. But the thing is that, going back to your question, Deborah, is in the past, and I'll go back to 95, 97, 2000, 2005. We were in Precinct 8. We were all the area around. And we used to have precinct caucuses in a restaurant down the street. We were led by someone, not myself, but Bob Ryan. Bob Ryan was always interested in what was going on. But he has finally said, I've had enough, I'm out of here. But that's what we need to do, is we need to involve and engage our other town meeting members, because there is a list on the internet, basically 144 members. The 5 selectmen that are on there to make up the 149, I don't know what their response would be to something like that, because I don't think they talk to residents. So we need to make that happen. So, go ahead, John.
Well, can I just throw this out? If you were a committee to review the town meeting warrant articles before town meeting, do you think that's practical? If you basically, you have the selectmen, you have the FinCom, and they have a public meeting and they discuss the articles. But you people don't discuss them until you get to town meeting.
Yeah, well, that's a good
between.
point, John, because everything the town does is structured, and you got to work within their confines. But if we got together, so we should have our own town hall style meeting. Just do it right here,
Well,
and just have it just open mic night. You got an issue, and we should just read the warrant articles right here. And anybody that's watching on town, just Scott Brown is my hero.
Let me throw
He's
this
the
at
one.
you.
He was watching the selectmen's meeting, and he was in his pajamas, and he drove down. He was so mad.
Let me throw this at you. Do it.
Yeah.
Do it.
Open mic. We'll get the warrant articles as soon as we can, and we'll just schedule it. And
I just think we need more info. Like, I kind of research other towns, and a lot of them, like, especially Burlington, Mass. You know, it says right in Burlington, Mass, you know, what the date of the warrants are, what the deadline is. They got info there. And I'm sure we could do the same thing. And if there's an issue of people power, I have said this suggestion for years. The high school students have to do 40 hours of community service. So let their community service be doing the minutes, doing this, doing that, because the minutes of the meeting, Joe Collins is an extremely competent town clerk, but I spoke up a few months ago about an issue. I spoke for about 5 minutes, and all it says in the minutes is John Zavaglia spoke about a certain thing. And that's all it said, which I guess they're legally allowed to do, but you go to other towns, and it's more involved, what was said. And I just think that's another thing they don't do. When it suits their purpose, the minutes are like really beautiful. And then, for lack of a better word, but when it doesn't suit their purpose in a way, it's more like, yeah, John Zavaglia spoke. Okay, what did he speak about? What I think, believe it or not, my brother-in-law Mike Hagen's going to find this strange. I'm going to speak very short in the next minute, okay? And my suggestions, because we only got 12 minutes to go, is we need to have a true representative of town meeting. What I mean by that is, in Burlington now, they don't allow elected officials or people appointed in more than 2 committees to be a town meeting member. The selectmen are town meeting members. They had to get the vote twice, okay? So we need to be like Burlington about that. We need to be like Bedford, where they have a periodic review of the charter. We need to be like Andover. Andover does it on the main motion. What I mean by that is, let's just say I made a motion that Bill Bradstreet is the historian of Danvers. Now we got to go by what the FinCom does. If FinCom says no, you got to vote on. You have to actually vote yes on the no. And if you want Bill Bradstreet, you're voting no on the yes. Now, how does that make sense? And I think they need to change that in the charter, where it's the main motion, and you put down what Andover does. FinCom voted 4-3, Selectmen voted 2-1, or whatever. And the other thing I want to bring up is vacancies on the Board of Selectmen. Right now, other towns, other cities, Boston, Saugus, they do runner-up. And we do let's appoint someone. And my pal, Bill Clark, and he is my pal, likes to tease me how Salem took 302 ballots to elect somebody, but that's going to happen when you got 10 votes. What Bill doesn't say is, Danvers took 4 months to fill someone on, I think, the school committee 20 years ago. So you need to have that change where it's the board, it's the runner-up, and if there is no runner-up, you have a special election within 60 days of resignation. You take it out of their hands. That's my opinion. And guess what? I'm through. I'm through here.
I wonder how many warrant articles are still out there with money in them that we don't know about.
There's a whole bunch.
Yeah, so,
Matthew, I'm sorry.
I just want to transition. So we've heard a few comments about traffic and density. So we have a warrant article coming up for February's special town meeting that involves overlay districts for commercial 1A or C1A and C1, and also for industrial 1. So it's Maple Street downtown and the High Street corridor out to the highway. So that's actually right through the middle of Precinct 1. So I've heard comments from fellow town meeting members in Precinct 1 about the impact that that's going to have, because we're basically relinquishing zoning control, local zoning control, and transferring that power to the state. And we're giving up a lot. So just if you want to just we'll go around and just some comments, brief comments about what your thoughts are for these overlays, because the last one we did was at the Hot Wat property, and that was a specific location. This is more widespread, and it has I think a bigger impact on the community.
I'm not going to say the wrong thing, so I'll pass to
Yeah, that's
somebody
fine.
else.
I think this would be a good moment to use, implement getting the town meetings in an informal meeting, because everything is structured, so maybe like sometime in January, we should just get everyone together and talk about what do we want Danvers to look like? You know, it doesn't matter what, it all boils down to traffic and density. That's all it's ever gonna be about, and the town wants revenue and money.
Yeah,
So-
and it's a complicated topic. Zoning is not something that people typically read as a form of leisure. So, John, just
A couple years ago at town meeting, I'm all for this project. However, there's a line in the materials that were given to us that said about how the DEP has a list of properties that, there might be some issues with. I get up at town meeting and I say, well, what properties are there? How many are there? And I really don't get an answer. I don't really get that there's 40 properties, 10 properties, 2 properties, 10. All it says is it's on file at the Department of Environmental Protection. Why? Why do you have to do that? Why can't you just tell us how many? Or if you tell us how many, are we going to then go, whoop, thumbs down? I don't know. And that's the issue I have with the overlay is how much, I guess, bad soil or bad stuff is there that you're really not telling us about.
Okay. Thanks, Tony.
I think there's a big problem there. The reason why I think there's a problem is one of my pieces of property abuts that right on the line of this proposal going in. And that's what I'm trying to think. I think I'm moving there, but I'm not sure. I mean, this is kind of crazy in a way. And they're going back kind of deep. They're going back into Alderman Street, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah, it's
So
not just
stop it
along-
there. You got these big buildings there, and then if you got High Street, as wide as it is, there's a problem. I think you need wider streets. I think we have to really do a little bit more thinking, okay? I mean, we don't want to be the city of Boston, or I mentioned the city of Beverly like last minute. They all went nuts. But if you go down Tool Street and take a look at those buildings, I mean, come on.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know, wide street. They don't want to hear it. But, and I know it's not going to look like Beverly because they're trying to set them back a little bit more, okay? But still, we got to stop to think. I mean, 128 right now is a parking lot at certain times. So, I mean, you just can't throw all the stuff in and then all of a sudden just expect it to happen. It's going to get worse. So I think a lot more thinking, and they're trying to rush this through in a way as far as I'm concerned. And it shouldn't be. There should be a lot more thinking into this, and we should really be smart about it as far as I'm concerned.
Good point. Mike?
I'd be interested in getting more information. You ride through Beverly and you say, is this what Danvers is going to look like? People, I don't know, I grew up in the 60s, early 70s, and, what are they going to make it at Harvard Square? People are going to live over a restaurant, Rocco's or something, and where are they going to park their car? And getting back to my brother-in-law here.
My ex-brother-in-law here. You know something I don't know?
You didn't know that tonight. But there was, if they're not given the list, there were people who lived in this town way back. There were gas stations right in Danvers Square, right there by Brothers and, up there by Dave's Mobile. There's 3 or 4 there.
It was
So,
on
and
all
then
4
on
corners.
Park Street, on the corner of Park, there was 2 there. So, I mean, there's a lot of contaminated soil there. At this point, I'd have to, but then again, we can say all we want about it in town meeting, but if the residents of the town, they don't get involved, they're just going to be, oh wow, this happened. Look at this,
I agree with you. I think there needs to be a little bit more of education and more information. I'm really not that informed on it as it is, but just listening to you, I understand that there should be a general town meeting before this to discuss, to educate. And like you said, maybe it won't make a difference, but at least you have to try. You have to try.
Just take the committee that you are sitting on and make it a formal committee and do what you want to do.
See, John's right, because when I did my little research, like in Needham, there was this committee on, when they changed their form of government, and one of the town meeting members wrote a 64-page report. And in Burlington, there was like the sidewalk study committee. So John Toomey's absolutely right, where you got to kind of probably take the bull by the horns, which no one really is, and just say, hey, we're doing, a bunch of us are doing this. Because the selectmen, instead of looking at us as a helping hand to them, we're looking at us as, the opposition, which we're not. But sometimes when it's our idea, it kind of gets like this. And when it's their idea, it's great.
But it's all comes down to revenue.
Revenue.
That's what it's all about. And the problem is, Hot Watt was sold as a $345,000 incentive from the state for 40R adoption. Now this is coming in at $600,000 as an incentive for adopting 40R. 40R is a convoluted effort by the state and the legislature to increase housing for the congestion and the high rents in the city of Boston, Springfield, and Worcester. And they are asking us to pay for it. The thing is, do we really want it? And there are not enough people that will go and express their opinion. Tonight, we have an opportunity at Town Hall, 7 p.m., the planning department and the planners and economic developers, all the directors that they've hired, are going to do their sales pitch for us. And they will listen to the response from the town meeting members that do show up, but very few do. So maybe this is an opportunity to wake up and smell the roses, because they're going to go right by us. Because when we get to town meeting, it's going to be a sales pitch you wouldn't believe, similar to what has happened on the Hot Watt properties. So I just, we have 2 minutes. I just like to thank everyone for attending this. And we wanted to make sure that this is educational for all of us. So if you have like a second or two for wrap up, Deborah, it's up to you. You want to say anything?
I appreciate everybody coming. Because I'm fiscally responsible, I also am communication driven. And the more information I can get, the better off. But I'm also that sharing the information. And I just didn't know. I went on the website, and the town website. I can't find meeting minutes from the last selectmen's. The last agenda was 10-1. Maybe I'm looking in the wrong place. I wish there would be some type of a email alert when it's posted to the website, so I can go in and just read it every day, because everybody's day, you just can't go to watch TV all day or go to meetings. So I would like to get involved with the communication and the sharing of information a little bit more.
Michael?
I appreciate the opportunity to be here. We had some healthy discussion. Getting back to me being Mr. Move the Question, if you notice, be observant in town hall, at town meeting, when it gets dragged out, everybody turns and looks at me.
You're right. Well, you've set the trend.
I think it's great, really do. I think we should do more of this. I mean, the reason being, it brings out things. I mean, there's a lot more we could talk about. I'll tell you right now, we know that. I mean, and honestly, and the good conversation is always good. Like you said, a lot of people don't listen. Maybe with this show here, if people paid attention and stuff like that, get a little more information, would be great.
John?
I said my piece 10 minutes ago. On to Jim.
I yield my time.
Mark, you said it correctly. When you stand up at town meeting and everyone groans, or almost, they're going to think, hopefully, but they should be doing it before, not then.
I know.
Thank you very much. Thanks everyone for joining us. Appreciate your contributions, and take care and have a good night.
Good night, Danvers, and we'll see you, John.
Good night, and congratulations. I think you did extremely well.
Good job, guys. Thank you.
No, thank you guys.
And you know what? I agree with you that this probably needs to be